All right, so my name is Jesse Ortiz. I am the Pay or Play Program Coordinator for the Houston Housing and Community Development Department. Again, we want to welcome you to the Technical Assistance Training for April 2022. If at any point during the presentation you have questions, feel free to submit a question in the chat and I will review and answer. In addition, make sure to submit your questionnaire at the end of my presentation. You can provide any comments or suggestions that would help us improve our next training go around. Just a brief overview, our division contact, Mr. Keith Bynum is our director, and Ms. Crystal Boyce is our division manager for contract compliance, and we are located at 2100 Travis on the 9th floor. My name again is Jesse Ortiz, and I am the POP coordinator for the Houston Housing Community Development Department. You can reach me at jesse.ortiz@houstontx.gov. My contact information is listed. Feel free to either call my office or cell phone at any time if you have any questions. Okay, today's discussion topics will be POP program definitions, POP program requirements, how to submit POP submissions to B2G Now, how I conduct the closeout evaluation, some frequently asked questions, and additional resources to assist you in your contract compliance. So we're going to start off with a brief overview of the POP. So the Office of Business Opportunity, which is a department in the city of Houston, oversees the Pay or Play program. The POP started in 2007 with Mayor White, and the purpose of the POP program is to ensure that contractors that do not provide healthcare benefits for their workforce, the purpose of the program is to ensure that our contractors are providing enhanced fairness in the competition for contracts between bidders and those that choose to offer health benefits and those that do not. We understand that contractors that do not offer health benefits are imposing a burden on the workforce, on the public and private agencies. So we just want to ensure that, so that's why we encourage our vendors to provide health insurance to their employees. And you can review Executive Order 1-7 for more information on the POP program, policies, and even you can also reach out to the Office of Business Opportunity if you have questions on the policies itself as well. So POP program definitions. So what's considered a POP covered contract? So if you're a vendor working on City of Houston project, you may question if your project will have to comply with the Pay or Play program. So this will kind of give you some insight. So first we look at the contract value. If the contract value is 100,000 or higher, most likely it will have to comply with Pay or Play unless it's exempt, and there's very few projects that are exempt from Pay or Play. Nowadays, we've had some changes in terms of what's required to comply with Pay or Play. And so the majority of HCD projects will have to comply with the Pay or Play program. In addition, if you are on a POP contract and you're a subcontractor, if your project is over 200,000 and you are either a professional service firm, a construction oriented or service type firm, you will have to comply with the Pay or Play program. The only exception will be suppliers, and the way we determine a supplier is based on the percentage of the contract amount that goes towards materials. And so if you're a contractor on the project again and you're questioning whether or not you need to comply with the Pay or Play program, you can reach out to me, you can email me, and I'll give you some more insight. In addition, on-call work order and job order solicitations are required to comply with the Pay or Play program. So if your project is on-call work order or job order solicitation and you have questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll give you some clarification. So there are some contracts that do not have to comply with the Pay or Play program. And as I mentioned earlier, supply contracts or procurement contracts. That, again, there's a 51% rule that OVO determines. Again, if your contract meets the 51% rule, it will not have to comply with pair play if the percentage of the contract is 51% supply or materials. In addition, intergovernmental contracts or interlocal agreements or bulk purchasing contracts do not have to comply with pair play program. If your project is one of those interlocal, intergovernmental, or bulk purchasing, we will have to have a POP 4 filled out before a project starts to be considered exempt. It does have to be approved by the Office of Business Opportunity, and you will have to submit those prior to the actual contract start date. If your project's already started, most likely it does. You will have to comply with pair play if it's already initiated in a contract details or in the details or in the contract language. So we do have a POP quiz. You can please participate. It would be helpful for everyone. So which the following type of contract is automatically exempt of the contract? We have A, service contractor, B, supply contractor, C, subcontractor whose contract is less than 200,000, or we have D, both B and C. So we'll give you a couple of minutes if you can put in the chat box what you think the answer is.
The answer is C.
All right, thank you. All right, so we got C, subcontractor whose contract is less than 200,000, and D, B and C. The correct answer is D. So again, supply contractors are automatically exempt from POP. In addition, if you're a subcontractor, your subcontract amount is less than 200, you will be exempt from pair play. Now keep in mind, if you are a subcontractor and your contract is, let's just say 170,000 to start, but your payment amount goes over 200,000 prior to the closeout through maybe some type of change order, we would consider that a POP contract from the beginning of the contract or from the onset. So just keep that in mind if you're a sub and you're not sure the contract is close to the borderline of that $200,000 mark. You might want to consider giving or offering health insurance if you're not now, just as a means for preparing for potential POP compliance, or potentially just be aware that you have to pay if it does go over and you're not providing health insurance. Your employees are exempt, meaning they do not have health insurance to their spouse, Medicaid, or Medicare. All right. Okay, so the next section, POP covered employees. So which employees are required to comply with the pair play program? So there's 3 criteria. So first of all, it's employees over the age of 18. Any employee that works at least 30 hours or more on your project or for your firm, and any amount on the City of Houston project. We have 1099 employees and all Section 3 employees on DR17 projects. So if you're an employee, even if your project or your contract amount is less than 200,000 on DR17 projects, you have a Section 3 employee, they will have to comply with the pair play program per HUD rules. Now, if you just some clarification, if your employee is working less than 30 hours or they're in between, let's just say they work 20 hours some weeks and then they work over 30 hours some weeks. In that case, on the weeks that they work less than 30 hours, you just, and you're a pay vendor, you're just going to go ahead and enter the hours in B2G now, but we will not charge you for those hours unless they're working over 30 hours for your company. Okay, we have another POP quiz. Can I please participate for the assistance of everyone? Okay, which element is not consist of a POP element? A, employee for the age of 18, employee working for a supplier, C, independent contractor, 1099, or both, or D, B, and C. Okay, we got B, employee working for a supplier. Great job, everyone. The answer is B, employee working for a supplier. And that's because the supplier is automatically exempt from the Pair Play program. Okay, now we're going to be going over POP program requirements, including pay and play options for the POP program. So as Lakeisha mentioned earlier, the POP 1, 2, and 3 forms are required at the onset of the project. Just to get some clarification, POP 1 is only required for prime contractors or general contractors, and POP 3. So POP 2 is the only thing that subs will need to submit of these 3 forms. So if you're a sub and you are questioning what you need to submit, the only one you will need to submit is a certification of compliance. And the certification of a compliance, or POP 2, just indicates how you intend to comply with the Pair Play program, including the number of employees that are working on the project or expected to work on the project. In addition, if you do not have access to B2G now, or if you'd like to have several employees gain access, you can fill out the B2G Now access form and submit those. Myself or Lakeisha will make sure that your company or your employee is added to provide access to that employee to gain access for B2 for POP purposes. Just a clarification, POP 1, 2, and 3 forms, if this is a construction project, should be submitted to LCP Tracker under the POP Documents form, POP Documents folder. If you're not working on a construction project, you can just send those directly to my email and I'll make sure to keep a record of those. Okay, a brief overview on the pay aspect of the program. So if you're a vendor and you're not sure, or if you know you have to pay, this would be some good information for you. So you understand that as a pay vendor that there is $1 an hour fee for every covered employee that works over 30 hours a week for your company. You must submit weekly hours to B2G Now for each covered employee on the project. Now, if you're on the project and you work some weeks and you don't work some weeks, you can enter no work for those weeks that you did not work. And it's highly recommended that you do that. While I do go in and do monthly audits, it helps when I notice that you did not work so that I won't consider that a non-compliant week. Also, the system will automatically generate notifications if you're not submitting. And so if you know you're not working, it's best that you go ahead and enter no work in the system. Now, if you're on a long break, for instance, you're not going to work for a couple of months, we can remove that notification so you won't have to be receiving that. Just go ahead and email me and I'll go ahead and remove that notification. Cameron, if you have a question on section 3, we'll get somebody to help you on that. Okay. Just a reminder, all play employees who work on the contract need to have both total hours and hours worked entered for each active week on the project. So I'm going to show you an example here. So what I'm noticing is that there's some vendors that are submitting the same hours for both columns in B2G now. Just keep in mind, total hours are the total hours for the company for the week. Again, we only charge if your company, if the employee is working at least 30 hours or more for your company. If your employee is working less than 30 hours and they're working, let's just say they're working 29 hours for your company, 29 of those hours are on the city project, the city will not invoice you for that week for that employee. Okay, so we do have some pay example situations. And these are just some scenarios that I think would be useful if you're a pay vendor. So we have an employee that's working for a covered, he's a covered employee and he is not offered POP benefits. So again, a covered employee means they are required to have POP benefits. So the employer must submit each hour John works on the project into B2G Now Workforce Audit. So if your company is not offering your employees benefits and they're full-time employees, then you will have to submit their hours to B2G Now unless they're exempt. Okay, John is a covered employee who is offered POP benefits but refuses them. So if you're an employer and you do offer them insurance and an employee rejects the insurance for some reason, it could be for whatever reason he or she likes, we will have to have a POP 8 form filled out. It will have to be approved for them to be considered exempt. But if it is approved, then your company will not have to pay for that employee. In a later slide, I'll go over how to submit a POP 8 form and make sure that it's filled out correctly. So the Office of Business Opportunity does require forms to be filled out completely before they're accepted. So John, the next example is John is a covered employee and has insurance through his spouse. The employer should have a POP 8 form filled out for John and submitted for review. And it should have attached to the POP 8 form a copy of the insurance card that John indicating proof of insurance. So any type of insurance, either Medicaid, Medicare, or through the spouse, must be attached to the POP 8 form to be considered to be approved. The next example is John is a covered employee and accepts the POP benefits offered to him. So in this case, John will be considered a play employee, and the employer should submit quarterly submissions with proof of insurance for John. It could be in the form of an insurance card or on an insurance invoice statement each month of the quarter for each month of the quarter. So John's name should be listed on there, including the amount that he pays. Just again to confirm that he does have insurance offered to him by the company. Just a reminder, does not have to be submitted on a weekly basis. It's only quarterly if you're a play vendor. You do not have to submit on a weekly basis. So now we're going to be going over the place aspect of the program, or what's considered quarterly workforce submissions. POP health benefits must meet or exceed the following standards. An employer will contribute no less than 75% per covered employee per month toward the total premium cost. Now keep in mind this only applies to single coverage employees. So if your employee accepts or decides he or she wants insurance that's greater than a minimum requirement, as long as the single coverage amount meets this requirement, you will be considered compliant with this aspect. Just as an example is if the single coverage amount costs your company $100, your company must pay at least $75 out of that $100 to be considered compliant. The employer and the employee shall not pay more than $25. That example. So again, employee contribution, if any, will be no greater than 25% of the monthly premium cost for single coverage. And the way we can determine single coverage is through the benefit package or the annual benefit package. So I ask all vendors to submit that to B2G now. If it's a multi-year project, make sure to submit that on an annual basis. Again, just to confirm that the amounts that you're offering do meet the city requirements. In addition to the annual statements, again, just make sure you're submitting on a quarterly basis your monthly insurance statements. If you're submitting, for an example, April 1st would have been the submission date for the first quarter. And on April 1st, you should have submitted January, February, March insurance statements to B2G now with the list of all the employees that worked on the project. If you're a play vendor, you must submit the list of employees to B2G now, whether they worked on site or not. And if you have any exempt employees, we'll have to submit that as well. The POP 8 forms again need to be approved by the Office of Business Opportunities. I ask that you submit all POP 8 forms to me for submission and processing to OVO if they're not currently approved. And the way you know they're approved is at the bottom of the form. It has OVO. It has a signature by OVO indicating that it is approved. If you do not see that at the bottom of the POP 8 form, then most likely it hasn't been approved. You would have to go ahead and get with me and I can go ahead and process it for you. Again, we ask that you submit on an annual basis your benefit package to B2G now. What I'm looking for is just the section of the benefit package that details the cost of single coverage. So it should be just usually one page out of the whole package that just details what the cost of single coverage is. And if you can't find it, maybe try to get with your insurance provider and see if they can provide either a letter or a benefit package to confirm that what you're offering your employees meets the city requirements. Again, if you're a play vendor, you do not have to submit to B2G now on a weekly basis. There are instances where you will get notifications to submit. Again, just a reminder, you only have to submit on a quarterly basis if you are a play vendor. But it's just important to remind yourself that even if you're a play vendor, that you're not exempt from submitting. You still have to submit. It's just on a quarterly basis. So looking at POP 8 employee waiver, there's a couple of reasons why an employee can be considered exempt from the Pay or Play program, including insurance to their spouse, Medicaid or Medicare, or if an employee rejects insurance that's offered to them by the employer as long as it meets the POP minimum requirements of the 75% rule. Again, if an employee is considered exempt, they do have to have a POP 8 form on file, and it must be approved by the Office of Business Opportunity. So here's a screenshot of a POP 8 form that I filled out to kind of detail exactly how you're supposed to submit. If you do not have this copy and would like, you can email me. Again, my email is jesse.ortiz@houstontx.gov and I'll send it to you. It's very important that you fill that out exactly as detailed in this form. So if, for instance, the vendor number is missing, OVO and myself will reject it and you will have to go ahead and resubmit it. If the contract department is missing, we'll also reject it. The contracting department for all HCD projects is going to be HCD or Houston Housing Community Development. For the contract and description section, go ahead and just enter the contract number. It's going to start with 4600. And if it has a title that's pretty lengthy, just go ahead and just put the contract number. That should be sufficient. Make sure that you indicate why the employee, or make sure to have the employee indicate why they're rejecting the insurance. And if it's other, make sure that they actually fill out that section and indicate why they're rejecting. It could be it's too expensive, it's they do not want it, whatever the reason is, but they do have to enter a reason or will not accept it. In addition, the section that says benefit amounts, that section does have to be filled out by the employee. So he does have to indicate what is offered to him and how much his expected portion is. Just a reminder, this one does have to be signed and notarized by, it will have to be signed by the employee. So make sure that it's filled out completely again and notarized. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me again and I can walk you through that. Okay, next section is a pop quiz. Okay. Which of the following does not consist of a pop coordinator? Employee working for a supplier, independent contractor, or both fancy. You can go ahead and submit your answers to the chat box.
D. That's just a lucky guess.
Okay, the answer is B. So it's a B. Employee working for a supplier. Okay, next section is how to submit POP submissions to B2G now. So this is an important section. If you do not currently know or have access to B2G now, just pay attention. While the POP tutorials are useful that I've created, sometimes people like to have the in-person tutorial training. So I can go ahead and do that now. In addition to this training here, I do offer Zoom calls to go actually work with you in submitting. So you can always reach out to me for that if you are a prime contractor and several of your subs need help and assistance that the tutorials were not able to assist them. You can just reach out to me and we'll try to set up a conference call on Zoom to go into detail on how to submit POP submissions. Okay, B2G now, or the link here, it's houston.mwdbe.com, is the management system for all POP submissions. So if you're a pay or play vendor, you will have to submit at this website. I will walk you through the sections how to do that. If you're a pay vendor, you will utilize this website to make all payments via the Chase payment portal. And I can walk you through that as part of this section as well. Okay, the B2G overview. We're going to be going over the POP contracts, how to view them, how to add your employees to B2G now, how to assign your employees to a contract, how to submit your workforce audit. So whether you're pay or play, you will have to submit a workforce audit, how to fill in your audits, and how to save and certify your audits. And again, it's very important if you do not have access or if you're not seeing the POP FAQ document that I've created or the POP step-by-step tutorial, please make sure to email me and I'll send that to you. Again, my email is jesse.ortiz@houstonTX.gov. Definitely highly recommend that if you haven't received those, make sure to send me that email and I'll send those to you. Okay, the first part, when you log in as a vendor, you're going to see a section at the top. It says contract. Go ahead and select the hyperlink. There's two sections that you can find your contracts, either at the top in the dashboard or under the search section where it says contracts. Select either of those to go to your list of contracts for your firm. Once you do that, you're going to notice there's going to be an action section, and under that, there's going to be a view button. Go ahead and select view under the contract that you want to view your contract. Workforce audits on. Okay, the next part is once you click view, there's going to be a tab at the top. There's going to be 3 tabs for workforce audits. Workforce audits mean payer play program, just so you're aware. So the first section is going to say workforce employee list. This is where you're going to add your employees or assign them to your contract. So if you are new to payer play, this is going to be the first section that you're going to go to make sure you add all the employees that are working on the project. You don't have to add all the employees that are working for the company, just those that are working on the project. Whether they're part-time or full-time, you will have to add them here. And under the section craft, make sure to select the correct craft. So if they're pay or play or both, you can go ahead and select that here. That's going to be important for determining who's invoiced and who's not invoiced. Okay, once you select the add employee button, you'll see a section where you can enter or fill out each employee in your company. If you need to edit or deactivate an employee, you can do that here as well under the actions section and just click edit. You can say you have an employee that's no longer working for your company. You can't remove them from the list. You can just deactivate them. So once you click the add employee button, you're going to notice a section at the top where you can fill out their name, and you can and then a section in the middle where it says active employee, yes or no. Again, if they're actively working on the project, go ahead and select yes. This does not have to be changed throughout the project, but if they're taking a break, or it's only determining whether or not they're working for your company still or not. So as long as they're working for your company, go ahead and leave them as yes. If they're, for instance, no longer working on the company or they're no longer working on the project, you can go ahead and select no. The main purpose of this is just for your purposes only. They won't come out under the drop-down menu when you're going to select the employees to fill out. It doesn't have any basis on your POP compliance. So if you want to leave all your employees as yes, that's fine too. You don't have to necessarily put them as no. It's just going to appear under your drop-down menu. Okay, this is an important step. Some vendors miss this step. So they'll add the employees, but they don't assign them to the contract. So every new contract that you get with the city, you're going to have to assign your employees to that project. The purpose is we understand that there's going to be some employees that are working on some projects and not others. So we don't want to have you to have lists of long lists of employees if they don't need to be there. So that's why we ask that you go ahead and assign your employees to the project. And only those employees that are assigned to the project will appear under the drop-down menu for that project. Again, if you need to deactivate employee that's on a particular project, you can go ahead and do that under the action section. Okay, now once you click the assign employees button, you're going to notice there's going to be a drop-down menu at the top. Go ahead and select the drop-down menu and select the employee that you want to assign to the project. And then select active on audits. So go ahead and select yes for active on audits. If you need to attach a file, you can go ahead and do that here as well. Most likely what we're going to do, your proof of health insurance should not be attached here. It's going to have to be attached to the weekly submission. So if you're planning to attach proof of health insurance here, don't do it in this section, on this page here. Go ahead and just do that on the workforce audit list, and I'll show you how to do that in a later step. Workforce audit for the pay vendor or POP 5. So this vendor here, what we see here is a screen under the workforce audit list, and it shows that there's certain weeks that he has not submitted on. Those are the weeks under the status that says add audit. So if you're viewing your workforce audit list and you see a bunch of add audits, then those are the weeks that are not submitted on. And if you want to submit, go ahead and select add audit, and it will allow you to submit for that week. If you notice that I've rejected some of your submissions for whatever reason, you can select the view button. For every rejection, you're going to have some notes on why it's been rejected. Most likely, it's going to be either there's no proof of insurance attached, or you didn't enter the hours correctly based on what's in LCP tracker. So if I notice that you have X amount of employees for a particular week in LCP tracker, but you don't have them listed here, I'll most likely reject it and tell you that you have to go back and resubmit. In addition, if your hours do not match what's in LCP tracker, go ahead and reject it here. You have to go back and re-enter those hours correctly. If for whatever reason you do not agree with the rejection, feel free to email me and we can discuss. It's just important to note that all submissions are automatically accepted in the POP. Doesn't mean that it was successfully approved. If I don't get back to you, it means it was approved. But for ease, I go ahead and automatically approve every submission. Once you have submitted or selected the add audit button, you're going to see an incomplete. Go ahead and select the view button next to the incomplete week. That's just indicating that you haven't submitted for that particular week and you need to. So if you're getting notifications that you have incomplete weeks, it's just an automatic notification that goes out to all vendors as a reminder that you need to submit. Now, again, if you're a vendor on the project and you know you're not working for a long period of time, let's just say 1 month or more, you can go ahead and reach out to me and I can disengage the notification for you. But just for congruency, we ask that all vendors just go ahead and submit no work if they know they're not going to work for a particular week. And if for some reason you're no longer working on the project, go ahead and submit final on the final work week. And that would just notify me that you're no longer working on the project. It's your final week. And I'll go ahead and remove any notifications or compliance requirements for you on that project going forward. Okay, so the fill-in audit section, again, it's under the workforce audit list. Go ahead and select fill in audit if you know you worked for a particular week. I will not accept an incomplete audit. So if you didn't work and you just submitted a blank audit, it will be rejected and you will have to go ahead and submit no work. So incomplete audits will never be accepted for pay or play programs. So just keep that in mind. We do get that on occasion where a vendor will just submit, but it's blank. If that's the case, again, it will be rejected. You will have to go back and resubmit. Okay, for pay vendors, as I indicated earlier, there's going to be 2 columns, total hours, hours worked. The total hours, again, are the number of hours that the employee worked for your company. So if he's a full-time employee, what we consider full-time is 30 hours or more. They will be charged $1 an hour for each hour they worked on the project. And the hours worked section, again, is only those hours that they worked on city project. So an example here, the first employee listed here is Johnny Brown. He worked a total of 40 hours for the company, but 40 of those were on the city project. The city of Houston will go ahead and invoice for Johnny that week $20 because, again, he only worked 20 hours on the city project. I do send out invoices on a bi-weekly basis. You will get an email with an invoice, and you have 30 days to make a payment before it's considered past due. If you're past due more than 60 days, there could be a potential for holding on draws at that point. So make sure that if you get a payment, an invoice, that you go ahead and submit the payment as soon as possible. If you receive several notifications on non-payment, at that point it will be considered non-compliant, and there could be a potential hold on a draw, and it could potentially hold up payment for the entire project. So just keep that in mind. If you're a subcontractor and you're a pay vendor, you do have to make sure you submit your payments within 30 days to be considered compliant. After you enter all your hours for both the total and the hours worked, go ahead and select Save and Certify. Then you will see a notification that it's pending review. Okay, next section is our POP quiz. Thank you for everyone that's participated so far. Please make sure to continue to participate. Company A has a covered employee that receives health coverage that costs the company 15%. A's company A meets minimum POP requirements. Company A does not meet POP requirements. Company A will have to submit weekly workforce submissions, or D, both B and C. Anyone have a guess or know the answer? Okay, we got B. Company A does not meet POP requirements. And D, both B and C. Okay, the correct answer is D. So prior to 2021, the POP requirements were 50% for single coverage, meaning that an employer could offer 50% and be considered compliant, but after 2021, the requirement is now 75% for single coverage that the employer will have to pay. So the answer is D, B, and C. So when a project is about to be closed out, prior to project closeout, I do have an evaluation process. I just want to make sure that all the POP 1, 2, and 3 forms are submitted to LCP Tracker. So prior to this date, you would have already received notification whether or not we have all those on file. In addition, we have to make sure that all the POP 5 and 7 or the pay and play submissions have been submitted by every vendor, and proof of health insurance has been attached for every quarter. In addition, all the POP 8 forms need to have been uploaded to B2G Now and been approved. If I notice that some of POP 8s are not approved, we'll not be able to close out the project. So we would have to make sure that the POP 8s are submitted and approved by the Office of Business Opportunity. If there's any outstanding invoices for the project, we'll not be able to close out the project. So again, if you're a prime contractor or you're a sub, just make sure that you pay any pay invoices as soon as possible. In addition, your termination of work for every sub or vendor should be submitted to LCP Tracker if it's a construction project, and your startup work as well. This is just to confirm what's listed in LCP Tracker as a means for determining whether or not your employees, your vendors, or if your company is working on the project and when your start and end dates are. Okay, next section is the FAQ section. So this is just general questions that I get often regarding the Pay or Play program. So first one is, do only employees working on the job site have to be listed on the workforce audit list for submission? So the answer is no. The main thing is I look at is it should match what's in LCP Tracker. In addition, if you have any subcontract supervisors or any oversight on the project and they're not an LCB tracker, they should be listed on POP form as well. There are some companies, they only have a supervisory role. So it's important that you at least provide that employee, and that employee should have health insurance, again, if they're over 30 hours or more, if they're working over 30 hours or more on the project. The next question, my employee has insurance on his or her own and my company does not pay for it. Does that mean we are considered pay? No, not necessarily. So only companies that offer or supplement the cost of insurance for their employees will be considered to be pay. If your company does not offer or supplement insurance, your company will have to pay and submit the weekly workforce audits. There are instances where an employee will or a company will say, well, my employee has insurance, but I'm going to pay 50%. We would just have to provide proof, and the employee would have to indicate that that's the case. If you do not have proof of coverage, so the Office of Business Opportunity will want proof of coverage for the employee and then confirmation that you actually are supplementing their insurance. Otherwise, if an employee just has their own insurance and you do not offer them, then you will have to pay for them, even if they have their own insurance. This next section is, I am a subcontractor and my contract ends before the prime contract finishes the job. Do I still have to submit POP submissions? No. Make sure to submit final on your final week. So if you know that this is going to be your final week of work, in B2G now, on the workforce audit section, there is a button that says final. Go ahead and make sure to select that. You can also notify me and I'll go ahead and remove any notifications you will receive going forward, but you will have to submit the final. That will just indicate to me that this is your final work week, that you're no longer going to be working on the project. Question number 4, do subcontractors have to comply with the POP program if they are not MWSBE or Section 3 employees or contractors? So it's important to note again that all professional service, construction, or general service contractors whose contract or paid amount is over 200 will have 200,000 will have to comply with the pay program. So in addition to all Section 3 employees, all Section 3 employees on DR17 projects. So even if your company is not Section 3 or your employee is not Section 3, or if they are, either way, you still have to comply. It's more based on the contract amount and type of project. FAQ question number 6. Does any of the payments to POP benefit my company? So unfortunately, no, we don't have anything set up right now that any of the payments will go back to you. They do go to a contractor responsibility fund, and the Office of Business Opportunity has a form on their website that details exactly those organizations where the funds go to. The main thing is it wants to help ensure that it offsets the cost of insurance for City of Houston, and you can see the Executive Order 1-7 for more information on that. Okay, the last section is the additional resources. Step-by-step tutorial. So as I mentioned earlier, the step-by-step tutorial is very important. It's created to help you see step-by-step the process to submit, including payments, whether you're pay or play. Kind of pretty much what I just went through today, but more in detail. In addition, the POP FAQ section. So for instance, you want to know if I am going to submit my POP 8, how do I do that? So just more into detail on questions I wasn't able to answer in this training. You can also gain access to all the POP forms, the POP 1, 2, and 3 forms on the Office of Business Opportunity website. If you're on Google, you can just go ahead and type in POP and then Office of Business Opportunity, and most likely it would appear in the first search result. That's how I normally find it. Okay, so that concludes the POP section of the technical assistance training. Does anyone have any questions? You can go ahead and unmute your mic or submit a question to the chat box. Okay. Well, it's been a privilege. If no one has any questions, it's been a privilege presenting today. And this will conclude our technical assistance training for April 2022. On behalf of the contract compliance team and the Houston Housing and Community Development Department, we appreciate your attendance and participation in this training. Please remember to submit your surveys prior for today's training, and they provide valuable feedback on improvement. Thank you very much again, and hope you have a great day.